Namaste, guys. This is more of an introspective video, one that calls for introspection and possibly a shift in perspective. Um, at the end of the day, though, everybody is entitled to their own opinion, their own perspective, because we're all different. Therefore, you know, how we feel is different. Our experiences are different, and therefore how we perceive is different. I am glad, however, for my experiences and for my emotions and overall my perspective on life, because no one should have a one track mind or one way thinking mentality. Nobody should, you know, make conclusive um conclusive opinions on any matter. Okay, and I want to talk about um I talked about this on, well, I think a couple years ago on another YouTube channel that I operate. And of course, I live in the future. So how I feel and how I perceive, and what I'm passionate about are pretty much futuristic. So you can pretty much tell what's going to be a trend and whatnot, blah blah. Whether I engage in it, yes or no, because I'm not about trends, but I can pretty much tell, you know, what trends are going to be, you know. That's the perk of having Aquarius highly aspected. Aquarius is a futuristic frequency. Okay? It's like I pretty much live in the future. And then when I spoke about the singlehood trend, it was not from the perspective of the loneliness trend, because that's what low vibrational. I consider these people who have such one track minds as low vibrational. You have to be open-minded and free yourself from the box and transcend outside the box, to varying realities, varying perspectives. Okay? Because you came across one particular person who embraced being single in their earlier years, and as they got older, they, became miserable. Doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen to everybody who embraces, singlehood and, not having children. That is shallow as fuck and stupid as fuck. And it's so sad that there are people who think like this. We are not all the same. There are some people who are going to be happy being single, happy not being parents, not being mothers, until the day they die. And, even when they're old and gray, this is still going to be a perfect life for them. Okay, maybe for you, maybe that's not ideal for you. But the fact that that's not ideal for you doesn't mean it's not ideal for somebody else. The fact that you feel like you gotta couple up with somebody, or you gotta, be a parent to feel fulfilled, doesn't mean that that's the case for everybody else. And damn you if that's what you think. You're the stupidest motherfucker. And I know that everybody is entitled to their own opinions, and because their perspectives, through their experiences are different, and their emotions also. But come on. Can we just all accept that we are all different here, and just let's just agree to disagree, and stop the bickering, and stop trying to influence people to perceive life as we do. Stop trying to influence people to live as we do, to want the same things as we do. Now, I'm not trying to persuade anybody here to perceive like me. What I'm doing is I'm crying peace. I'm crying peace. I want all the bickering to stop, to end. I want people to stop trying to persuade people to live life like them. Stop trying to put people in boxes. Stop trying to put people into bondage by trying to make them feel guilty for living life as how they feel best to live it. Stop doing that shit. I literally posted on several social media platforms a couple days ago that I believe that religious persuasion should be prohibited. It should be outlawed, prohibited, just stopped. Okay? It should be a crime. Okay? It should, because we know that religious groups in particular, because I believe spirituality is different from religion. Okay? And sometimes I don't even know if we should go down that route and try to distinguish them, or separate them from each other, because then you have dumbasses who are religious try to say that they're spiritual, and they pretty much just don't know the fucking difference. Okay? They're so stupid, they don't even know what it means to be religious. They don't know the definition of being religious, because everything about them is religious. Whatever it is they do is very repetitive. They get up on Sundays or Saturdays and they go to church. They have a program set of a program filled with activities that are repetitive. They maybe change the songs, or they maybe change the scriptures read, but it's the same outline. It is the same program. Some of them, they pray every morning, they get up. Some of them, it's every night. Some of them, it's both. But whatever it is that they do as a religious person, or if they, for argument's sake, as they claim, a spiritual person, they do these stuff religiously, which therefore make them religious. Now, why spirituality is different? Spirituality is not ordered by man. This is purely being led by your spirit, your intuition. There's nobody who comes with there's no book with set of rules that you follow. You don't get up and you go to this quote unquote holy center or holy place of worship every day of the week. Well, sorry, not every day of the week, but a specific day of the week every week. You don't get up every day and do the same thing. Today may be a full moon, you may do a full moon magic. You don't do that shit every full moon. You don't do it every day either. Today you get up, you may meditate. You don't do that every day, do you? Today you may get up, you may charge your crystals. You don't do that every day, do you? Being a spiritualist is not religious. So, but like I said, for argument's sake, These motherfuckers, they want to disguise themselves under spirituality. Because everybody is done becoming familiar with the fact that religions are a problem. Religions are low vibrational. Religions are toxic. And they're trying to run away from that description. That is also true. They're trying to run away from that title. Anyways, in trying to acquire new members and to retain current members, these religious groups, they psychologically damage a lot of people. It's a fear tactic. Those fear tactics that they use to guilt trip people into joining their groups, into staying with their groups, it psychologically damages people. And in the end, they do more harm than good. I believe spiritual freedom or religious freedom should be accessible for all. I believe that religious freedom, spiritual freedom is for all. This is for everybody. This shouldn't be just for a specific group because they, in quotation, and know they're right or know they're serving the true and living God. No. That's a matter of your perspective, okay? Your natal aspects, your stuck on tradition, what you grew up knowing, and what you practice repetitively as a child. You're stuck on that. You don't have your own mind. Your mind is your mommy's mind, your grandma's mind, your great-grandma's mind, so on and so forth. You have their minds. Their mindsets are passed down to you. You're not free in spirit. And your mind is not free. Therefore, you don't got your own perspective, basically. But for argument's sake, let's say they got their own perspective, because they're going to debate that. But it is what it is. But religious freedom, spiritual freedom, it's for all. It's not just for some. Everybody should have this right. And there should be no bias. This right isn't just for Christians. Because I notice Christianity is the most forceful of them all. And acts like they're the most entitled of them all. Like they got the right to practice their religion more than every other faith, you know. And they'll criticize people of other faith. But when people of other faith criticize them, they try to demonize those people. And they try to make it all about, it is because they believe in the true and living God, why they're being persecuted. But what about when they're persecuted people of other faith? How do they interpret that? So it's just really, it's like, I've always, the conclusion that I've come to is that a lot of Christian people are psychotic. They don't have any fairness to their game. There is no logical, it's a practical religion, yet it lacks logics. And with that, it has a very troubled foundation, because if the very thing that you're based upon is lacking, then there's pretty much nothing to keep that standing, and which is why it doesn't stand. And more I spoke about this too, and a lot, all the things that most of the things I've spoken about, I've seen them manifest. And I know for a fact that the others will manifest, because I'm pulling even the emotions of people out of the ethers, out of the Akashic, from the future. And I spoke about this before, that you got more and more people believe in Christianity, and sure enough, it is happening. It is happening now more than ever. And in time to come, it will happen even more, because people are waking up to the illusion, waking up to the fact that they had been in illusions. Some people may beg to differ, in regards to what I said, that is a very practical religion. It is. They believe, even though the book they claim to believe in seems to say otherwise, that's also substantiating what I said, because they believe in the book, but they don't believe in the book. Okay? And I said this before, that Christians, they tell people to do what they're not doing, which is extremely hypocritical, because they're going to tell you, don't lie, but they're the biggest liars. They're going to tell you, don't commit adultery. They're lusting after your husband. They're going to tell you, be fair, when they don't know a thing about justice. That's so far from them as the East is from the West, and will continue to be. But we who are awoke, we know it is just a tool to divide and conquer, to manipulate the masses. Okay? So it has this very low vibrational spirit to it, where in which it has been for from the beginning, on which people who engaged in it, who takes part in it, they start descending lower and lower and lower in frequency. And with that, develop a lot of toxic traits or shay, and they become quite hypocritical. And you find that they're most concerned about saving others and not themselves, and because that's exactly how their hypocritical behavior makes them seem. They're not paying attention to their flaws, their lack of introspection, none of that. But they pay attention to aspects of others that are nowhere close to as damaging as the toxic characteristics they possess. And they focus so much, they utilize so much energy and time in watching and judging and criticizing other people who are less troubled as they are, people who are who are in better places than they are, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. And it is just so crazy and absurd because they need their own attention. But because of ignorance, they don't introspect to see that, to know that. And their main purpose in life is to save people, is to go out and persuade people and guilt trip people to join their faith, to stay in their faith. Like newcomers and stuff like those. And people who were always, in doubt of the faith, in spite of how long they've been with the faith. They can tell when you're not being manipulated. It's a spirit, it's a frequency that possesses them, I believe. And so, therefore, I really believe that religious persuasion or spiritual persuasion should be forbidden, should be outlawed. Should be passed as a felon. It should be seriously forbidden, prohibited. It has damaged a lot of people's psyche, emotions, mentalities. It has. And it is only the strongest of us that overcome the critics, who survive their arrogance, their ignorance, the perplexion, the gang stalking, because they do that. They do. Christians, they gang stalk people. Especially if you were grown around a set of them and you are the chosen. Meaning you're called to be set apart, to be different. You're free-spirited. You got a mind of your own. They gang stalk the fuck out of you. And of course, try to guilt trip you because, of course, that's their main tactic. With fear and talk about what's going to happen to you when you die. And they try to tell you you're going to die if you don't do what they do, if you don't become like them. Like, we're not all going to fucking die. Death is for every fucking body. And like, when you are really, when you're really connected to source and the true spirit, which I'm not trying to persuade anybody about who or what that is. It's just a matter of my perspective. When you're connected, you see beyond the manipulations. You're free from their manipulative strategies. You're protected from their manipulative strategies. Now, I feel like I kind of went off course, but maybe there's a reason why Spirit led me down the religious pathway. Because it's now really coming to me that a lot of these people try to guilt trip women, and women who find it desirable, and perfect and beautiful, in being single and childless. A lot of these people are religious quacks. A lot of them. I'm not going to say all of them, like I said, having a one-track mind is, very silly to allow yourself to have. Having limited perspective is very, silly too, to allow yourself to have. So, but a lot of these people who are trying to guilt trip women who are so confident in their own energies, who do not need to validate themselves with a spouse or child. My mind just wandered off a while ago. I think I forgot what I was gonna say. My mind just wandered. You know what? I was thinking about not saying something, and my mind just wandered off. But like I said, a lot of these, I think this is what I was gonna say. A lot of these people try to, make people feel like who try to make women feel like, because like they don't do this to men who don't want to get married. You don't find them guilt tripping men who don't want to get married, who refuse to get married. You don't find them, it's very sexist, misogynistic. You don't find them trying to guilt trip men who don't want to get kids, because there are men out there who don't like kids, who don't want kids, who don't want marriage, who don't like marriage, but I don't know why. Well, this attack is coming from low vibrational masculine men and low vibrational women, because the man, he's supposed to do and focus on the do. He's not supposed to be arguing with women. That's a feminine trait. And when a man or supposed masculine is in that frequency, he's in a bitch frequency, and therefore is equal to a low vibrational masculine, because he's not in his divine energy. It's the worst thing for a man to, it's my perspective, to act like a woman. That's just not balanced. Okay? And I mean a man, let me further clarify. I mean a man who projects himself to seem masculine. I'm not talking about homosexual men, because those are not masculines. I'm talking about men who project themselves to seem masculine. Men who identify as men. It's the worst thing for you to act like a woman and to quarrel with women. When you quarrel with women and you try to one-up women and you try to debate with women, or you try to debate women, you are acting like a woman. Leave that shit for a woman. Who you're supposed to talk to, sir, are men. Talk to somebody, or pick a fight with somebody your own size, in other words. It's an energy thing. Pick a fight with somebody your own energy, your own size. Stop fighting with women. Stop bickering with women or against women. Stop doing that. That's weak. And stop telling a woman how the fuck she's gonna feel. Because you're not a woman. And not because your mama was miserable not being married at 50, don't mean every woman gonna be miserable not being married at 50. Not because your auntie, who you just don't fucking like, so you just try to perceive and see the worst in her life, whoever the fuck you came across, or your boss, or whoever it is. Not because you perceive that person is miserable at 50, not being married, not being a parent, not being a mother, doesn't mean it's the same narrative for every woman. You want that because you want women to aspire for marriage, aspire to be married, aspire to be mothers, because then you have women chasing after men, cat fighting, bitch fighting for men. The competition is slowing down more and more because less and less women are in this fucking rat race. Because women are discovering themselves. It's not even just women. You got some men discovering themselves and realizing that they are wholesome all on their own. They don't need to get married. They don't need to procreate to feel wholesome, to feel validated. That's fucking stupid. You literally have people who are married, got kids, and are still fucking lonely and bitter at 50. They're still married at 50. They still got the kids living at 50. And they're still fucking miserable and lonely. Loneliness is not a matter of what you got and what you don't fucking got. That's not what you got and what you don't got doesn't dictate whether you feel lonely or not. That all got to do with the relationship that you got with yourself. It has nothing to do with whether you got a house, a car, a marriage, children, friends, neighbors you communicate with, you got tea parties with, you go to brunches with. It has nothing to do with that. Co-workers who you're close to, it has nothing to do with that. Because a lot of people, they got all them shit against them and are lonely as fuck. Can you imagine that? So what could be the problem? Well, let me tell you what ain't the problem. Not being married ain't the problem. Not having children ain't the fucking problem. Okay? Not having neighbors you lavish with, or have tea parties with, or go to brunches with ain't the problem. Not having girlfriends ain't the problem. Not having guy friends ain't the problem. Not talking to your coworkers ain't the problem. Not having a house and a car ain't the fucking problem. None of that shit is the problem. None. It's the relationship that you got with yourself. Because let's face it, even if you got a million fucking kids, when they get older, they're gonna go on their own. Unless you're gonna become, like some of them toxic ass parents who guilt trip their kids and being confined to their presence, who guilt trip their children to staying with them even when they're adults, rather than going out there and exploring the world and living their lives like the fuck you did. A lot of these parents, they explore the world. They never stuck by their parents' sides. They never did that shit. And they're gonna tell you that they had to leave their parents. Well, bitch, I have to leave you. Bitch, your kids have to leave you. Okay? So, unless it is that you're going to guilt trip your kids, or you're going to psychologically damage your children to feel like they need or have to stay around you and watch over you and keep your company, then that's the only fucking way your kids are going to be around you when they become adults. Unless you're going to be a narcissist and a manipulator, your kids ain't going to stay with you. Unless you are going to psychologically destroy and damage your kids, they're not going to stay with you. Because I don't want to go down that path right now, because there's going to, be a debate in people's minds, especially considering the fact that there won't be any comments allowed. But some people may bitch. What's normal? We're just gonna go down that path. But in this sense, normal is engaging in a particular cycle. You grew up, you get older, you go out on your own, you live life your own way, based on your perspective, like you said, your emotions, your experiences. But if that experience involved, if part of your experience is involved you having a manipulative, narcissistic mother who succeeded in guilt tripping you to stay with her forever, then you'll be stuck with that narcissistic mother and you'll never be free. You'll never go out on your own. You'll never explore the world. And well, something like that now can make someone miserable. Something like that can make somebody miserable. But choosing to be single, choosing to not be a mother, and not having been influenced into that cannot make you miserable. Cannot. And maybe they're mixing up people who allow themselves to be bamboozled into singlehood and not having children. Maybe they're mixing up those lots with the people who actually chose that path of being single, not having children, not procreating. You got to look at the bigger picture. It's just not normal for adult kids to be glued to their parents, stuck to their parents, not going out into the world and just experiencing the world. It's just not normal. It's not. And I just, explain what normal is in this sense. It's engaging in a specific cycle. And the specific cycle is you grow up, you go out and lay your own foundation. That's the normal that I'm talking. Now, the more I discover myself and what I said I wasn't going to mention, I don't think I'm going to mention it. I think maybe I did mention it, but I'm not sure where and when and in which video I had possibly mentioned it. And for some reason, I don't know if it's just, my mysterious nature, why I just don't want to mention it in this scenario. Or it's just my spirit, my intuition saying, don't. I'm not going to say it, but there's a power that comes with not being married. You can, of course, have a partner. And, of course, the religious quacks, they ain't gonna like this message because they're gonna, conclude that I'm encouraging fornication. Whatever. I'm not religious. Moreover, I'm not Christian. And I'm not bound to those, in quotation, rules. But there is great strength that comes, and being unmarried. Now, whether it is you got a partner or not, there is great power that comes, like in every area and aspect of your life, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, physically to some degree, physically to the whole degree when you're single, completely single, and also financially. It's like when you're married, if you are the wealthier spouse, you know that your money isn't completely your money. It's also the other person's money, because if y'all should get divorced, you better know that you got to pay alimony, or palimony or whatever the fuck they call that, that men get, and or if it's the same alimony. I think it's palimony. Anyways, plus you got to give them a settlement, and they're on after several payments. So, and wealthy people got to be careful and mindful of, people want to marry them, or people who just appear in their lives, because it's really hard to tell when if somebody really digs you, if they really love you, when you got a lot of dough. Because you wonder to yourself, is it the dough they love, or is it me? It's really tragic. I mean, like, you got the dough by what you want, but at the same time, will you ever find true love? But when you are not married, like I was saying, you're free from all that bondage, financial bondage. There's another thing that I was gonna mention, but I'm not gonna mention it because spirit knows why, and I know why. At least I think I know why. Spirit does not want me to mention it. Just as the other thing that Spirit doesn't want me to mention, there is a very important reason why. But if you understand spirituality, you will know that it is very empowering to not being married and not being a parent. That may sound cynical to some people, and I'm pretty much experiencing the best of both worlds. I'm not gonna get into details of why that is, but I remember doing a reading the other day, or was it the other night? And I remember saying, and Spirit just brought this to my consciousness. There is no amount of money that is worth your freedom. When you're not married, you're free. When you do not have children, you're free. Or at least when you don't have the responsibility of being a parent, you're free. You're free. And I'm not saying one should abandon their responsibility of being a parent, but what if it was taken away from you by force? There are actually aspects in people's natal charts that states that they will not experience the responsibility of being a parent, especially once you step into your divine purpose, once you become once you ascend spiritually, once you are aligned with your destiny, whatever your natal chart dictates should happen to you will happen to you. Being aligned really comes about the awareness of the spiritual realm and freeing yourself from the closed thinking of the physical one. It's you connecting with your spiritual self, your intuition, with spirit overall. You being subconsciously conscious. You becoming subconsciously conscious. And so if it is destined for you to not bear the weight of being a parent, Spirit will allow in some way, shape, or form, for you to not experience the responsibility of. It's fucking there in our natal charts. The aspects are there, whether or not that is what you're supposed to experience. And for some, it is there, but for when we're much older. And the natal chart tells us when, whether it's when we're in our 30s, 40s. Some people became mothers at young ages and had to bear the responsibility of being a mother. This is because it's somewhere in their natal chart that they should be. For some, it's probably in your natal chart that you should give birth, but you should just not bear the responsibility of. So maybe you should be a surrogate mom. Maybe you're going to have kids and give them up for adoption. Maybe you're going to have kids and their dad's going to bear the responsibility, or some relative is going to bear the responsibility. It's fucking there in the natal chart. The natal chart. It's there. But what I'm trying to say is, stop trying to guilt trip us like how religious people guilt trip motherfuckers into believing in their religious crap. Stop trying to guilt trip us into, becoming a part of a fucking stupid ass rat race. Stop doing that shit. And for some who have exited those races, stop trying to guilt trip them into re-enter those races. Stop doing that shit. That's toxic as fuck. And I guarantee you that you have women who are in their 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Let me just say again. 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Who don't got kids, never engaged in procreation, never been married, ain't married, maybe been married, but got divorced, who are fucking loving their lives. Not gotten kids, who they had to guide, who they had to nurture. We don't all want to fucking nurture, idiots. It does. Do you know it takes a lot of your energy to nurture? Time is energy. It takes a lot of your time. And ultimately your energy. And that's why a lot of times, not in all cases, a lot of women, they tend to age faster once they have the responsibility of taking care of kids, once they engage in procreation. There are aspects in one's natal chart that tells if that's what's going to happen to you when you got kids. There are aspects in your natal chart that tells you if that's what's going to happen to you if you got kids, if you have kids, if you have a spouse, Because that shit can age you much faster than, kids. Because let's remember that we have no control over what people do. You have no control over what your spouse does or what your kids do. And the more you try to wrestle with that fact, the fucking more you age horribly, bitch. Lucky for women who do not have spouses, who don't got kids, don't have to worry about that shit. Who don't have the responsibility of children, because there's some who, though they never engaged in procreation, they are responsible for children. It's in their natal chart. They are responsible for children. And it's like a burden. I don't care what you want to say. It can be a beauty if you approach it not in a menacing way, not in a manipulative way. It can be a beautiful thing for you to take care of other people's children. But if you use this as a manipulative tool, let me guarantee you, the only people who are going to benefit from you having such responsibilities are the people who you're responsible for, these children, and the people whose responsibility you had to take care of. Don't try to hinder all parties from benefiting from this destiny, from this fate. It is what it is. It is in our natal chart. There are aspects that tells if you are bound to be a nurturer, a carer, if you're bound to a life of responsibility. And even when you're old and fucking gray, you will always have something that you are responsible for. I was gonna say something. I'm sorry. I don't want to say, but there's no rest for the wicked. I'm sorry. That doesn't go for it. Goes for everybody. It doesn't. But I'm just saying. But the point is, there are certain aspects. There are certain aspects that, dictates that, one is free and detached. And so will be. Maybe Spirit God, obviously Spirit got a different plan for, such people. And usually it is on a mass scale. I'm remembering that story in the Bible. Guys, I was growing in a religious household, okay? I was growing up in that crazy ass mess. But I would tell you, I appreciate the Bible because there's so many things that, can inspire us from the Bible. I don't agree with everything from the Bible. But hey, nothing is perfect. Nothing. And the fact that there is some truth in some things doesn't mean that it is the ultimate truth. Never forget that, okay? I remember the story of, I think it was Mary, a particular Mary and Jesus. And I think it was another Mary or another woman. Or was it Mary and Mary's sister? I think it was Mary and her sister. Okay, Elizabeth, I'm not sure. But her sister or her cousin, she was fated apparently with the responsibility of, certain physical responsibilities, making sure the group is fed, put it in my own words, the fucking place is clean, blah, 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 blah. Whilst Mary, I think, her purpose was a spiritual one, being close to, in quotation, the master. Being a former spiritual icon. So, pretty much, it's similar to what I'm saying. Some people are fated with the responsibility of carnal matters, of physical matters, or vain matters, whilst another set of people are fated with spiritual matters. Our purposes are to guide a mass of people to spiritual ascension in consciousness, to wake people up, to become subconsciously conscious. Okay? So, sorry about them bitches bickering in the background. That's what they do best. Whatever you do most, you're bound to do that best. And yeah, so you get the gist. Hi, little birdie. You're so cute. Like me, I appreciate freedom so much that for me it's more joyous and he's trying to make a nest, I think. This is like ASMR watching this little birdie outside the window. He's so close to me and I know he sees me. Or she. Definitely he's making a home. She's making a home. You're so smart. You knew that you'd find home building materials. The fuck? That's all you know. Animals are much smarter than, human beings. Anyways, I was saying I appreciate and value freedom so much that it is more joyous to me to watch these creatures rather than to cage them, confine them so I can sit and look at them. There's no joy in watching caged animals, in watching caged creatures. They're most beautiful being in their fucking element. Hence, National Geography, Discovery Channel. You don't see them caging these animals. They set up cameras at strategic points, and they watch and observe them in their elements. And that is so ASMR entertaining for us. And yet some motherfuckers, they get the idea to cage some of these creatures. Their minds are so small that they cannot see beyond the idea of trapping these animals, how horrid that will look. They just think that it would be cool. And nothing beats something being in its element. It's natural form. Being in a cage is not being in a natural form or natural habitat. Okay? There's a lot of low vibrational energies there. because there's bondage. So, yeah, I really never expected to talk so long. I just saw this video on YouTube and I felt inspired to talk about this. You know, having a whole bunch of kids, staying in an on getting married to a toxic person for the sake of not being lonely, when you don't realize that loneliness is a matter of the relationship that you have with yourself and not the relationships outside of yourself. um you find that you are lonelier than you would have ever been had you just stayed with your fucking self, with your fucking lonesome self. It would have been better if you had just dealt with yourself and your loneliness, and yourself and the lack of connection to yourself, than getting married to somebody who you knew had a really bad character, staying married to someone who got a really bad character, and having a whole bunch of kids, because those kids are supposed to make you feel less lonely. They're supposed to make you feel less pathetic about your existence, when all you got to do is engage in that spiritual journey, experience the dark night of the soul, transform, and then transcend. Yeah, because you got to first go on that journey, and then you got to face your shadow self, experience the dark night of the soul, go through as much loneliness as possible, the dark night of the soul, discovering what it is that really makes you happy. And that may cause you to shed some friends and some connections, some relationships. So a lot of loneliness, yeah? And just being alone through and through. Crying for days, months, however long that shit lasts, years, crying in your solitude, which you may consider as loneliness, then, and you cry and to the point that your spirit breaks free and breaks through and free. And you are in a whole new world, one where in which you've conquered loneliness through much solitude, and you have gotten so used to being in solitude that it becomes your new norm. And you, by conquering it, you develop ways in which to entertain your own self, not with people, not with other people, but with your own self. And the things that really authentically make you happy, not the things that you were socially conditioned to make you feel happy. No, not those things. Things that you were born with, things that are innately a part of your being, things that cannot be stripped away from you, that cannot be stolen, that cannot be taken away from you, that cannot be manipulated away out of you, because it is attached to you. They're attached to you. Things that no law or man or woman or child or devil can take away from you. And that's when you become, spiritually ascended. And you are now subconsciously conscious, woke. Okay? And being in such a high vibrational frequency where in which there is no earthly thing that is weighing you down. You're free and you're happy. And even when you're 50, even when you're 30, 40, it's like some people think that when you're 30 and you don't got kids, you're old and it's too late, or it's getting too late. Like that. So even when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, however long you live, and you don't got a husband, you don't got a boyfriend, you don't got a girlfriend, you don't got a wife, you don't got kids, so the fuck what? That's what your spirit says to itself, or to you. So the fuck what? You done conquer that lesson of not finding happiness through any of those shit. Through friends. Through chit-chatting with neighbors, your co-workers. You know, having inappropriate relations with your co-workers. You know, relations other than the one that you're meant to have, that you are supposed to have, which is a working professional relationship. You are fucking okay. You've been okay. If you can be okay at 20, at 30, without a husband, without a lover, without kids, why the fuck can't you be alright at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, however long you may live? Why? Why can't you be happy then? Oh, because you're old? Well, guess what? Women got married, and there's some of them, their spouses died before they did, and they had to not have a spouse at 50 or 60 or 70. Some of them remarried. So if some of them got to remarry, you know, there's still hope for you to get married at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, however long you live. There's still fucking hope. And there are women who, I think I've heard several stories, rather, more than once, I believe, of a woman in her, 50s or 60s having kids. So if you're destined to, you will. No matter how fucking old you are. Okay? And you can always adopt. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You will still have someone to nurture. And also, let's remember that, I mean, even if you become some lunatic, narcissistic, crazy bitch-ass mother who tries to guilt trip her kids and staying with her, there's still that possibility that you may have kids whose fate is not bound to you or anything, and they're meant to be free-spirited, free and out in the world. And you, what? All that manipulation works against you. Because whilst, you know, that you have, you know, conversations with your kids every now and then, whilst you would get visitations from your kids every now and then, you don't see them any fucking tall. You don't see them any at all, because they realize you're a devil, you're toxic, and they cut all ties with you. Kids can do that, you know. There are kids who don't give two fucks about their parents, who went above and beyond for them, and they detach from them. You got people out there who devoted their younger years for their kids, and their kids, when they became adults, they still went on with their lives and forgot about them. And I don't know, maybe they visit them once per year or once within, several years. And, can we blame them? No, we cannot, because they got their own lives to live. Like I said, a lot of, these parents, like, they detach from their parents. Some of them, they never looked back at their parents. So, it's okay if the same is done to them. It is quite okay. And it doesn't really matter why you had to. It really doesn't matter. It is what it is. Nobody's bound to anybody. So having kids don't, determine, or, conclude that you're going to have them around you when they're older. You're going to have company when you're older. You're not going to feel lonely when you're older. Loneliness is not dependent upon the relationships you have outside of yourself. This is completely dependent upon the relationship you have with yourself. I've been saying that. Okay? And believe it or not, there are people who have succeeded in having their adult children, stuck in a cycle with them, not being free to live their lives. And they're still lonely as fuck. Because they're ignorant of what loneliness is, like I said. And they're always seeking for fulfillment in others, when that should come from within. So yes, you can still be happy at 40, at 50, at 60, 70, 80, 90, however long you live, being unmarried and being without children and not having had engaged in the act of procreation. You still can be happy. There's so many things you can be doing with your time. Not because you're older or you're old and you no longer have kids to look after and possibly a spouse to look after or to chit chat with, doesn't mean that you won't have anything to do. You can encourage people if that's your calling. You can write a book. You can travel and take pictures, engage in photography. You can write poems. You can start a blog. You can start a vlog. You can start a company. You can devote some of your time to orphanages, to children who are orphans. Whether you go to these orphanages, you can still do this even if you got adult children, because like I said, a lot of adult children, become so engulfed in their own lives that they don't really have time for their parents anymore. And like I said, that is understandable. Why the fuck not? And it is always the parents, I realize, who weren't there for their parents, who expect their children to always be there for them. Most of the time. I'm not going to say all the time. That's a close-minded thinking. Always room for variation. But there are so many things you could do. You could sleep, get a lot of rest. You could bake. You could cook. You can watch TV shows, movies. You can read books. I'm giving you a lot of ideas here. You can start a garden, a farm. You can cook and take food to homeless shelters. You could feed the homeless. You can feed children at orphanages. You can feed orphans. You can adopt an orphan and nurture that orphan. And why is it so wrong and so bad and so distasteful if a woman is old and got a bunch of cats? I mean, the sad and distasteful thing about that would be if the only reason why she did get them cats is because she's lonely, which is a battle and a fight with one's self. But if the purpose of her acquiring those cats is to have something to nurture, then what the fuck is wrong with that? You got women who been married, their spouses died, who got kids, but they're grown-ups and they're on their own, living their own lives. What are you gonna do? Beat them? Torment them into staying around you, playing poker with you, playing Ludo with you, playing dominoes with you, reliving, childhood experiences, sleeping, waking up to their breakfast, blah, blah, blah. The fuck? Eventually, we all are alone, but we don't gotta be lonely. Eventually, we'll all be alone, whether you are now a spouse and a parent or a parent. Eventually, your kids are gonna go on their fucking own. Your spouse may fucking die before you, and you will only have your fucking self. So, being a cat woman is not just for women who chose a life of singlehood. Because let's face it, a lot of older women now were very traditional, okay, and they've been married, and their spouses died. They've been mothers, are mothers, their kids are just living their own lives. So what the fuck? I mean, that's what I mean. You have to see beyond the bullshit. You gotta see the truth for what it is. And it's not bullshit. It's not horseshit either. It's not shit. It is the unfiltered truth. There's no manipulation, no filter on that shit. Okay, I said it's not shit. So, there's no filter on that. No manipulation on that. Okay? So, there's nothing wrong if you want to have a bunch of animals when you get old. Or if you want to adopt a bunch of orphans when you get old. There's nothing wrong with that shit. But ensure that you doing that is not because you feel lonely, because that's an issue with yourself and can only be fixed by yourself and not by anything outside of yourself. Not by acquiring anything outside of yourself. And that's why a lot of men, they do a lot of shit when people, claim they're going through their midlife crisis and shit like that, or a midlife crisis. Because I feel like once you've already gotten to a spiritual consciousness and you're subconsciously conscious and you are awoke, you're ascended, I don't believe you will ever go through a midlife crisis. It's that point in someone's, cycle in which they start rethinking the purpose of their fucking existence. And they think that getting, and they start feeling lonely. It's like them being forced to have a spiritual awakening by spirit. And it's like them traversing the dark night of the soul where they feel so lonely despite and in spite of the people around them. They feel so lonely. And that's because they never dealt with themselves. They never dealt with their spirits. And so they may get a new car, sell their old car, get a new car. They may, spend all their savings, the money in the savings that they and their spouse got to get a car. They may think that, you know, getting with a younger woman will make them not feel so lonely. They may do their hair differently, start dressing differently, start doing stuff that they didn't do before. You know, because they feel a hollowness within them. That's a part of the dark night of the soul. That deep aching emptiness, that void. And they're constantly trying to fill that void with shit. Cars, hoes, money, you know, coke. Some of them do start doing coke at that age. And, you know, alcohol, you know, smoking, a whole bunch of shit. Starting drama in their relationships when they didn't, you know, before. But they're just trying so hard to feel. The dark night of the soul is a transformation. It's a form of death. And you can experience numbness during death. A lot of times you do. And that's why the feeling is the hollow achingness. You know, you're not really feeling, but you're feeling. And it's so obscure. It can be very frustrating. Okay? Kudos to those who have been there, done that, and you're free, you're liberated, you are spiritually ascended. You are subconsciously conscious. You're free. You're woke. That's a hell of a feeling. And the more dark night of the soul you traverse, the stronger and better you feel at the end of each. For some people, they just experience one dark night of the soul. When you have a great calling, a greater calling, you're going to experience many deaths, many dark nights of the soul. Of course, those are to prepare you, groom you, to be stronger, to be better, to develop fortitude, temperance, justice, and prudence. They're never meant to break you, but to build you. Of course, some people could not handle the dark night of the soul, got stuck. Motherfucker got stuck during the darkness, and they died. And people said, they commit suicide, and people said, oh, they were depressed, blah blah. They were going through the dark night of the soul. Yeah, it made them seem depressed. Before the calm, there's a storm. And that is actually a cycle. Pretty much what people are likening life to in that analogy is life is like a hurricane or a storm. You got the eye of it, and around it, a lot of shit happening. Life, chaotic shit. But temperance is being able to control your character in spite of what's going on around you. It's not being able to control what the fuck's going on around you. It's controlling your reaction, your character, despite what's going on around you. For some people, there's a lot of chaos around them, and it seems like their life is perfect and peaceful and blissful. And that's because of how they choose to react to the chaos around them. And you find that you're going through, when you're cutting through that circle, you enter the middle of that circle where there's a calm. So after the storm, there's a calm. But after that calm again, there's another storm. So it can be said that before a storm, there is a calm, as well as it can be said after the storm is a calm, is the calm. So after, and it's just a continuous cycle, meaning we will have rest, we will have breaks, we will. We will be rested. We will get to rest. You know, it's not going to be chaotic through and through. It's not going to be harsh through and through. You get to rest and you're back to work again. So I just wanted to say that, and I'm gonna leave it there. I wanted to say something the other day, and I was just like not in the mood to record, and there are several stuff that I wanted to say, as a matter of fact. I think there were more like local matters. Most of them, if not all of them. I remember two of them that I think that was one. So I think I remember two of them. But those are local issues. I don't even know if talking about local issues is worth my time. That's pretty much what I want to say. I don't fucking know if it's worth my time. I don't know. In my spirit, I'm here and now. It's not worth my time. I feel like I've transcended above my nation. I don't think talking about certain issues, certain national issues, is worth my time anymore. I am though gonna touch on one particular one, and it's about this politician, Phillip Paulwell, and a baby mother of his who her name is well, I'm not gonna call her name, but she was apparently I don't know if it was the US Marines or I'm not sure, but a US defense troop group or something of that sort. And she has been arrested in Jamaica, facing trial for the murder of Paulwell's other baby mama and kid. These politicians in these third world countries, who which are mostly black countries, if not all, and these leaders are mostly black leaders, they are so whorish. It sickens my stomach. I mean, like, how often do you hear about indiscretions in these first world countries, you know? Well, there was Bill Clinton, but can you tell us about any more? You know, maybe there were others in the past, but let's talk about modern society. And people in these third world countries wonder why the fuck the monies ain't being allocated properly, dispersed properly. It's because these niggas, and I mean that in all essence of the fucking word, are insecure as fuck. These black politicians in these fucking black countries, in other words, are the most insecure, dumbest motherfuckers ever. They got the most baby mamas. They got the most women. Or maybe they're the only motherfuckers who got baby mamas. How about that? And they got a bunch of them too. And a bunch of fucking bastard kids. And the funny thing is, a lot of them are married. And they got a bunch of baby mamas during their marriage. And a bunch of bastard kids. I said that. What my intuition led me to see and to sense was that the kid isn't even his. The kid that the girl had that's been murdered isn't his. He of course he suspected that. He's just playing a role pretending that he believes the kid is his. That ugly ass motherfucker is not the father of that kid. And I know some people are gonna say, well, ugly people sometimes make the most beautiful kids. Not in this sense. That motherfucker, and that isn't always true. Some beautiful people give birth, some beautiful people have beautiful kids. Some ugly people got ugly kids just like them. Okay? And don't try to school me in your fucking minds about, calling kids ugly. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, and some of these kids are fucking ugly. And some of them, they continue to grow into that ugliness, and they never become beautiful. Once ugly, always ugly. It's in their genes. It's from their parents. Their parents ugly as fuck. They're ugly as fuck and will always be ugly as fuck. And it is what the fuck it is, because they come from monstrous parents, got nasty energies, nasty forms, and they, are monsters just like their fucking parents. It is what it is. I don't always gotta say what you agree with. Must agree to disagree at times, okay? The kid wasn't his, and the fact that he beckoned that woman to Jamaica to talk to the other woman was a plot, was a scheme. And I hope that the US authorities, they get involved in this and fish out the lies and find the discrepancies, find the shit that don't make fucking sense, and expose them.
Hi there, mommy. I'm excited to see you.
I'm excited to see you too.
Yay.
So, the kid ain't his kid. The kid ain't his kid. And I believe he found out that the kid isn't his kid, and that's why he had the woman and her kid killed. He knew the kid wasn't his kid. And that bitch ass insecure nigga was angry as fuck. Literally, that's what I'm picking out of the ethers. Like, the moment I heard about the story, something just never felt right to me. And I'm not gonna touch on the other local issues, but I'm touching on this one. Cause I hate motherfucking injustice. I hate that shit. He's trying to pin the murder on her and got people to rally against her and to lie on her. And I wish the truth gets revealed. And you know, and I said this about the girl who's yet to be found, whose body may never be found. Who that police nigga's baby mama killed. Bitch ass, crazy ass police bitch. Donnelly was the name of the girl who was killed. Oh, the fuck is this? Where did this come from? Oh, fuck, I just realized where it came from. So, anyways, what was I saying? It was a setup. I'm tired of these motherfuckers. It was a fucking setup. Tired of talking about these motherfuckers. Yeah, what I was saying is that, yeah, these women, they need to steer clear of these toxic niggas. You know he's toxic. He got a wife. He got with you. Got you pregnant. Cheated with wife with you. Got you pregnant. And now he's with another bitch. And I'm sure he's been with other bitches. You're not the first. You're not the last. That bitch wasn't the last either. Blah, blah, blah. Why the fuck do you act like you're obligated to the nigga? Why do you feel like you need to play save a bitch ass nigga or save a hoe? Why? Why do you feel like you need to have brunch with a nigga's baby mama? Why you feel like you need to accompany her any fucking where? You think this is some sisters' wives shit? And that's what's killing a lot of these bitches. They're dumb as fuck. Their nasty livity. Playing sister's wife. You don't need to go anywhere. He could have done that all on his own. He could have gotten a member of his own family to do that. You're not even his wife. So, I don't even know if I should feel sorry for her that she got caught up in this whole fucking mess. I'm just going to say everything that I'm feeling. Even if she did have something to do with the murders, he's the one who put her up to it. Literally, I just sense there's a strong feeling that he's at the core of all of this. He could have also been an instigator, a manipulator. You have some of these men, let me tell you something. They got all these women and they pretend like they want them to live in peace and not hate each other and work together for the sake of the children that he fucked them and gave them. Fucking stupid bitches. Or supposedly fucked them and gave them. Because sometimes some of these kids ain't even these bastards because they're not honest. So you think they're gonna get honest bitches? Anyways, and so they try to play like there's some God. God don't need a bunch of bitches to validate him or herself. God don't need a bunch of bitches to validate himself. How about fucking that? Insecure ass motherfucking nigga. Disgusting. I'm disgusted by men like those. They're weak to me. They're weak. And I don't got time for a weak ass nigga. I don't. You're a waste of oxygen. A waste of existence. A waste of carbon. Fucking waste of molecules. And so they act like they want all their baby mamas to live peacefully and co-parent with each other. Why the fuck do they gotta co-parent with each other? They didn't knock each other up. Because they want to seem like pimps. The fuck is this? When behind the scenes, what they do is instigate shit and pit each of them against the others. Yeah, they do that shit. So they act to the public, they pretend in the public, and they pretend, they pretend in the public that they want them to get along, and they're responsible fathers. They want all their baby. How about you not having had so many baby mamas? How about that for being a responsible motherfucker? How about you having been faithful to your wife from the get-go? How about that, idiot? You know, I'm gonna leave that right there. But there's something about the situation spirits tell me that's very stinky fishy and don't make any fucking sense. And I feel strongly that he is at the core of all of this drama. He is a manipulator. I just see it in him. I just see it on him. It's written all over the motherfucker. You know what's a big turn off for me? A man who got a lot of baby mamas. I mean, like, why don't women hold men accountable? I mean, like, why don't women have standards? It's not just being with a man who got a lot of money. That's not standards. I mean, that's not the whole 9 yards. I mean, like, a lot of these men nowadays, they only want women who got money too. So, yeah, you know. But on top of that, they don't want women who got a lot of baby daddies. So, what do you get with men who got a lot of baby mamas? I mean, some men, if you got more than one baby daddy, they look at you funny. Moreover, if you got 3 baby daddies, 4 baby daddies, you are just a no-no for them. For some of them. Some of them aren't that picky. But, you know, why don't we be picky too? I mean, they're that picky. Why don't we be picky also? I mean, they don't want a woman with a lot of baby daddies. Why should we want niggas with a lot of baby mamas? Maybe got AIDS or something. They could got AIDS or something. HIV or some STDs. Okay? Because that's like they're going around sticking their dicks in every hole they knock. Raw. So why don't we hold them accountable? Also, Why make it seem like, it's such a cool fucking thing? Anyways, Amo, like, for me, let me see if I've ever met a guy with several baby mamas. To be honest, I've never really come across men like those. Um, I've actually come across quite a few men who got um no kids. I've come across a lot of guys who don't got kids. A lot of guys. Um, but I'm trying to remember if I'm trying to remember if I've come across any with several baby mamas. I cannot really recall, to be honest. But you got them out there. Believe me, you got them out there. Okay? And we gotta hold them accountable. Okay? Because that shit's not cute. Okay? So, namaste, guys. Until then.